What's up, everybody? Welcome back inside the Woody Hayes Athletic Center for another practice report presented by Byers Auto. One of the bigger practice report Tim, that we've done all year as the 40-year vet Tim May. I forgot to introduce him, myself, Spencer Holbrook. We're here inside the Woody Hayes Athletic Center. It's Penn State week, as you can see. And of course, Marvin Harrison Jr. is behind us hitting the jugs machine, because what else would he be doing?
Right.
That's all he does.
Hey, I'm looking forward to Marvin Harrison Jr. versus Joey Porter. It's going to be an interesting matchup, man.
Ryan Day talked about that a little bit. Jim Knowles talked about it a lot a bit, if that's even a thing that I'm allowed to say on a professional show. And of course, Kevin Wilson talked about it. Those are the three we talked to. A lot of ground to cover here, Tim. It's one of the bigger shows, like I said, that we've done just because of the magnitude of this matchup. Ohio State heading to Happy Valley for a noon showdown against Penn State on Saturday. We'll be there. We will have full coverage of it today, tomorrow, Thursday, Friday, up until Saturday. And then after that, of course. But back to Tuesday, Tim, the Ryan Day press conference. What'd you learn as we sat there for a good part of an hour and a half and listened to those three bright football minds talk about Penn State?
Well, what we learned that he reasserted was the fact that, in fact, Jackson Smith-Njigba was on a pitch count. Jackson Smith-Njigba was not pulled from the game because of any type of re-injury or an injury in a new spot. I think that's important to keep in mind, because of course rumors float through here like I was going to say like the mighty Mississippi, but the mighty Mississippi isn't really mighty right now. We'll get into that in some other podcast. But bottom line is they flow through here like a big time river, and based on what he said, it looks like Jackson Smith-Njigba is going to be available again this week, barring any kind of malady in practice. So that's the most important thing you put together from what you heard. Then past that, Chip Trayanum clearly has made that move back into the running backs room, because I call him Paleo Neoteote has really come on in the linebackers room. They've got other guys stepping up, including Taraja Mitchell. Looks like he's going to be back this week, but they really need to shore up that running back room again because of TC Caffey going down with a season-ending injury, which was revealed today. And then, of course, you've got Mayan Williams and Trevion Henderson sitting there, whatever order you want to put them in the game, along with Dallin Hayden. But they need that fourth. And, you saw Chip Trayanum has been contributing any way he can, including on special teams. So that was interesting, just from a injury news update, so to speak. Another
one is Cameron Brown, who Ryan Day did say that is not a long-term issue at all. Didn't really say if they expect him back this week, but to know that he will be back is welcome news for Ohio State as they continue to work Jordan Hancock into the fold. I thought Jordan Hancock ran well on Saturday. We talked about that on our Monday after. I was very impressed by the way he came back from his long-term hamstring situation. And maybe one of the keys there was it took so long from when he injured it to when he came back. But no, you're exactly right. I mean, the cornerback situation continues to be a little bit of a revolving door, but it looks like Denzel Burke is stuck in it now. That's good. He's getting better with each game as well.
And Hancock was going to be in, I think you and I agree on this, he was going to be in contention for a starting job if he hadn't gotten hurt in the preseason camp. You agree with that, right?
Absolutely.
J.K. Johnson played well on Saturday, in my opinion. Go ahead.
I think it's kind of telling, Tim, and this is not a slight at J.K. Johnson at all, but it is a little telling that Ohio State has had J.K. Johnson all year, and he and Jordan Hancock kind of played the same amount of snaps on Jordan Hancock's first time back. That, maybe there is a little bit of separation there between Jordan and J.K. Maybe I'm reading something into nothing.
Yeah, we'll see it on the field. Yeah, exactly. I mean, J.K.'s
he's been good.
Yeah, he's been good, and he's got reps on
For
Jordan
sure.
Hancock right now, quality game reps, and we'll see how that goes. But you've got, cornerback, modern football, you've got to have that pair and a spare, man. And I think they feel like they've got a pretty good pair and a spare going into basically the last 5 games of the regular season.
They need to feel good about the cornerback position because of the opponent this week. Sean Clifford has a adjusted completion percentage of over 70%, which is a really good number. His average depth of target, which is where he's throwing the ball, is I think 9 or 10 yards. So he's throwing the ball down the field well, and he has receivers, Mitchell Tinsley. He has Parker Washington. He has a couple guys there that you can really start to count on if you're Penn State. Ohio State's going to have to be good in that secondary this week. They're going to be challenged, and maybe that's a little bit of an underrated storyline, but let's bring that to light, because I do think this is going to be a challenge for the Ohio State defense to be able to defend those guys. And so when we talk to Jim Knowles, who still has some tricks up his sleeve a little bit that haven't been shown because of all the blowouts, you talk to Ryan Day about the challenges this Penn State team. They understand that Penn State is going to give them some issues if they're not on their game on Saturday. So I think that's really interesting.
And then the flip of that is, like, I've got Dave Jones of PennLive.com on my podcast this week. Give it a listen. And we discussed this too. This is a Penn State offensive line that maybe isn't as up to snuff as some of the ones you've seen in the recent past. They've had some problems occasionally on protection. They've had problems, at Michigan they had problems running the ball. Those two running backs have really come on big time for them. But that's kind of been a theme for this Ohio State defensive front, is going against, to a certain extent, offensive lines that are still in development, in some form of development. Last week was against Iowa. You could see it. I mean, I talked about it in the week leading up to it. Against Wisconsin, you could see it. Against Michigan State, you could see it.
Yep.
And so I expect this front, I'm going to call it a front six, although they played some front seven a lot against Iowa the other day with 3 linebackers in the game and 4 defensive linemen. That was interesting to watch. But I expect them to get after it again on that defensive front, just based on what I'm hearing about Penn State's offensive line.
Yeah, and then on the flip side of that, Tim, you've got the Ohio State offensive line. Didn't do a great job Saturday by any stretch against that Iowa defense as far as trying to run the ball. Didn't really establish the ground game the way Ohio State wants to on a consistent basis. That's going to be something that I'm sure they will try to set the tone with. You doubt Ryan Day in one way, and he's going to try to do that thing. You see what Michigan did to this Penn State run defense. You see what Ohio State can be in the running game if they're on everything. That's an area where I would expect Ohio State to try to excel this week. I would expect a bounce-back effort from the Buckeyes because, they've now been challenged. There wasn't a lot of challenge in trying to run the ball those first few games of the season. They've now been challenged. They didn't look very good, and we're just being honest here. Didn't look very good in the running game. Now can you do it against Penn State when you should be able to do it against Penn State? That's going to be something that Ohio State, I'm sure, tries to do.
That's the interesting matchup here, is because this isn't bulletin board material. Penn State's not the same defensive front you've seen there over the eons. That's also a development group. It's kind of a smallish group, but it's more of a development group right now. And I would say going into this game, Ohio State has a slight advantage offensive line against their defensive line, and then vice versa, Ohio State's defensive line or defensive front against their offensive front. That's where this game is really going to get determined. If in fact you can get a couple 3 scores and quiet the crowd a little bit, because there's going to be a huge crowd there. It's middle of the day, high noon, but everybody makes a difference between high noon and white out the night situations. If Penn State gets rolling, if they get a couple things going, it doesn't matter. They can play that game at 8 a.m. in the morning as opposed to 8 a.m. at night. They can play that game at 8 a.m. and it would still be an imposing crowd situation. But I think Ohio State, just looking at this game here early in the week, has advantages in both trenches, both of the trenches as you size them up. And I think they will try to get that running game on track. I mean, we saw what Michigan did to that Penn State defensive front. Penn State's defensive backfield could start. You could take that group and put them on anybody else's defense in the Big Ten and feel really good about it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a talented group. Talented safety, Joey Porter. I mean, I was talking about him earlier, but just right on down the line, their other corner's really good, as Kevin Wilson pointed out when I talked to him about Porter. Yeah. So what you do is, you attack it where it's the least weak, and then go for your shots from the passing game. So it was kind of a flip side of what we saw on Saturday against Iowa, because Iowa was really good in the front seven. That's a really good defense. They beat Ohio State to the punch a lot, especially like we're asked about. Kevin Wilson was asked about this, and Ryan Day, when they tried to run some of the wide zone, wide stuff. Iowa just stepped right up through the gaps and got to the running back. They got a little shallow in their thing because now you're getting a little petrified. But Iowa was really good at recognizing what was coming and then mully-gullying the map there. And we'll see if, in fact, they can clear the road a little bit better against Penn State.
Mully-gullying. I think that's a first.
I was just looking for something there, and that's what I was actually, the word I was looking for was muddle.
I think that's a first on the practice report presented by Byers Auto as far as words go.
Though, that's an actual phrase. I just didn't use it correctly.
I've never heard that before, but I guess I'll have to look it up after the show, Tim. If you mix the film of, mix it up, Tim, the film of Penn State, Michigan's running game, and you put that on the tape for Ryan Day to watch and dissect, and then you give them the challenge after watching what they didn't do against Iowa, Ohio State is, and you put those two together, Michigan versus Penn State, and then Ohio State versus Iowa, not only do you get to challenge the Ohio State offensive line to be better, then you show them what can happen if you block up front pretty well against this Penn State front. You're going to see Ohio State run the ball. I'm not going to be surprised at all to see that. A crisp autumn day in the Pennsylvania hills. It's going in the valley, the happiest of valleys. It's going to be interesting to see Ryan Day's offensive philosophy. Got into a little bit of play calling with Ryan Day. I learned a lot. I don't know if it's stuff that you really can put the quotes and write stories around, just because it's really just here, learn all this information. But if you want to, go back. It's on LettermenRow.com. It's on our YouTube channel, the live stream with Ryan Day.
Yeah. A
lot of interesting stuff from him and Kevin Wilson about layering play calls and getting things right and having the right call for whatever. I learned a lot today just about football.
But here's
as much as I did about Penn State.
But see, what they're working with, what Ohio State's working with, what we were brought up on the Monday after. Yeah, you're concerned that you didn't run the ball better, just on average yards per play.
2.2.
Exactly. You're definitely concerned about that coming out of that game. But see, the thing about an Ohio State is it has this other factor, which is its passing game. Mm-hmm. And you can sell out too much. You can put guys, give guys too much responsibility in the defensive side on the defensive side of the field, and then pay for it. Mm-hmm. I'm talking about, and that's what Iowa did. Iowa paid for it. I came out of that game, like I told you, I came out of that game with probably as much or more respect for Iowa's defense than I did going in. And Ohio State scored 47 points against that defense. 12 of those points came on field goals, just one more field goal, like we said, and they've scored 60, counting Tommy Eichenberg's ridiculous pick six from linebacker. My point is, you do a lot of things because you literally need to keep the defense honest. But this team on a heartbeat, you saw them just in that third quarter, bang bang touchdown with the passing game. That's what this offense brings to bear for any defense, and eventually they're going to find that play or plays that click it off. But you like Kevin Wilson was talking about, you don't even script things anymore because, for example, in the first half they had such ridiculous great field position and couldn't exploit it from a touchdown standpoint. That if you had scripted starting drives at like the 25-yard line every time, just this is what we're going to do. And the reason you script plays, it's not just to get everybody involved. It's also to see how the defense reacts to this. All right, this formation, what are they doing? How are they reacting to this formation? I mean, Bill Walsh did that with the San Francisco 49ers a long time ago under Joe Montana, and after like the first 12 plays, they had a sense of how teams were going to line up against them when they threw this out on the field or that on the field. Well, now Ohio State has so many formations, so many tricks out of those formations. Tricks, I mean, they can do this one time and that the other time out of the same formation. It's pretty much go out there and run plays and see if you get yardage or not. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You're not just pulling them out of a hat. You're watching who they're substituting on defense, how they are. Is somebody beating your left guard? I mean, that first that sack that C.J. Stroud absorbed, they ran a little twist. The defensive tackle and defensive end, and it was a simple twist. The defensive tackle just came right across Donovan Jackson's nose and took him basically to Paris Johnson Jr., who then picked him up, and the end just came around, huge hole. I mean, that was
film study, folks.
Yeah, but
right
but the point is, it was like just a little miscommunication or misconcept, I guess, more than anything else, by pretty much Donovan Jackson. The pass off wasn't there like you thought it would be with these guys this deep in the year. And of course, you learn from that and you move on.
Yeah, Tim. I also thought it was really interesting that against.
But that was a touchdown for the other team.
Yeah, that's not going to happen too often. You don't see C.J. Stroud fumble when he gets hit very often, but you saw it there.
Yeah, but that was a perfect moment.
I thought it was interesting, Tim, that against Michigan State, Ohio State came out and did a bunch of orbit motion. They motioned a lot of guys out. I said it was kind of Gus Malzahnian from that Auburn playbook.
Just trying to get a hint, man. You're trying to get a hint. What are they doing?
They were doing all of those orbit motions, motion everywhere, running backs going out of the backfield. And then against Iowa, you saw absolutely none of that.
Yeah.
So now that gives Penn State, well, are they going to do that? Are they going to do this? Are they going to do what they did against Wisconsin? Rutgers? I don't really know. A lot for Penn State to think about, a lot for Tim and I to talk about as we wrap up things on the practice report presented by Byers Auto. That's the 40-year vet, Tim May. I am Spencer Holbrook. Come hang out with us on the message board, the Lettermen Lounge. $1 for an entire year. Hell of a deal there, Tim.
Yes.
You can get all of Tim's content, all of my content, Matt Parker in the recruiting department, photography. We're having a good time over there, folks. And then make sure to also hit the bell underneath for notifications every time we produce one of these lovely videos from the Woody Hayes Athletic Center. Again, Tim, Spencer, practice report.
Wait a minute. I don't think you can even get some from the dollar store now for $1.
It's $1.25.
Exactly. That's how good a bargain this is. Go ahead now.
Good point, Tim. But that's where we end things. Tim, Spencer, practice report, Byers Auto. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. We'll see you back in this same building on Wednesday night for more Buckeyes coverage where we do it all year round.